and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. With me, as always, is the man with the plan, the man with the knowledge, the man.
Phil, me and Parrish.
Hey, Phil, thank you to have you once again. Got my apple juice. Okay, gotta have that glass of apple juice when you're doing your podcast. That's the secret to good podcasting. Lots and lots of apple juice. Okay, moving right along. So let's talk crazy conspiracy theories because I'm not a DC man, Phil. Mm-hmm. But through osmosis, I have absorbed a bit of the current DC omniverse. And it struck me recently that there are two storylines going on in the DC universe right now centered around Batman, which is, first off, Batman's wedding or his proposal. You have the new flashback to the war of jokes and riddles. Ooh. And then, of course, we have the big mystery leading into our big Watchmen crossover. Why are there three Jokers? As I'm listening to us all online talk about this stuff, it strikes me, that's obvious. So here is my fan theory on who the three Jokers are. Since shortly after this, and because we're going to be tying into them in the near Watchmen crossover, here is my understanding of who the three Jokers are. The three Jokers are actually the Joker, the Riddler, and a third Joker to be named later. There are a couple possibilities, and we're going to discuss each of those possibilities. And I have three possibilities for a third Joker. The reason why the three Jokers, Joker and the Riddler, is because what you have told us about the War of Jokes and Riddles, which is that it's stupid. Said that, but I take this as an opinion because essentially the idea is that the Joker and the Riddler will never be happy if one of them kills the Joker and one of them gets to kill Batman and the other one doesn't. So mark my words, the culmination of the War of the Jokes and Riddles will be the peace that is achieved between Joker and Riddler, where they come to understand the only way we can both be happy is if we both kill Batman. And the only way to both kill Batman is to be part of a conspiracy to kill Batman. And this will occur because a third party will come in and make the suggestion. And then these three people will be the three Jokers. The idea is the reason why they make themselves the Jokers is because, and perhaps this is even Riddler's idea, that because the Joker is by his nature unpredictable, it is best that the Joker have the killing blow, because as they switch between which one of us is the Joker this week, Batman will not be able to anticipate because his understanding of and so he won't be able to see their patterns in everything they do. Because, of course, the Riddler at this point is probably well aware that Batman sees his patterns. So, there are three possibilities I'm going to put forward right now for who the third Joker is. And who the third Joker is going to be important. The first answer, the obvious answer, is that the third Joker is actually because you have that triumvirate of villains, Joker, Riddler, and Penguin. Each one has their own strangeness. And for what it's worth, the Penguin has the least annoying habits. He's the most rational one of the three. So having him be the third Joker means that every so often you're going to have a rational Joker who maybe isn't even dressing as the Joker, but just hires one of his henchmen to go jump around, go probably a guy with a mustache just for callback purposes. And so the three Jokers are working together, the triumvirate of crime, various crimes. And the idea is that they'll keep on committing crimes. They'll keep Batman off kilter because there's always going to be this Joker off in the corner that Batman's having a problem with. You may in this that actually himself is way more sane than people think. But that's a whole other concept. So that's the idea that it's the Penguin Joker. The second option is the third Joker is actually Catwoman, which actually plays into this entire idea of, because if Catwoman is the third Joker, what you realize is that Catwoman has kind of been playing Bruce the whole time.
Charlie, you're
or all sort of, oh, but she truly loves him. She truly loves him. Of course, she's a criminal. She probably, and maybe Batman is just another means to an end. It's a long shot, but I could definitely see it. You see the proposal possibly being Batman's real, because here's the thing you have to remember: Batman now knows who the three Joker, and then he says, "Well, there's three Jokers," and he goes, "Well, I should sort of figure that out by myself. Then I shouldn't just ask the magic tier of all knowledge who the three Jokers are." No, he immediately asks, "Well, who are the three Jokers?" And in being told who the three Jokers are, he is plotting his thing. So if the third Joker is Catwoman, that explains why he's proposing to her. Because he's trying to turn the tables on her, catch her off guard, and find a way to essentially take out the three Jokers once and for all. The third option is the third Joker is Ozymandias. Because he would be the one to realize that he could manipulate the other two Jokers to his of banding together, and will all destroy the Batman. Now, what Ozymandias' motivation is questionable. The Watchmen are messing around in the DC universe in the first place is questionable to start with. But this is my not really fan theory, but this is my fan theory based on what I've been able to glean from what we've seen from the War of Jokers and Riddles, where Batman's storyline is right now, and what the three Joker conundrum could possibly mean. What do you think, Phil?
I hate to burst your bubble because I like your theory, but I think this whole thing started like towards the end of New 52. So I don't know if it's evolved or merged what they're going to do, especially now that, it's been revealed that Dr. Manhattan, I guess, is everyone assumes it's Dr. Manhattan pulling the strings, and like the universe has changed since Rebirth, especially since that Superman Reborn. I mean, stuff's getting wiped and rebooted and all this. But I'm thinking it has to do with that dark metal, because they're talking about now, Batman and everyone else discovers the dark multiverse. There's, they already said we're getting all these evil versions of Batman. And at the end of Dark Knight's Metal, Green Lantern discovers the Joker or a version of the Joker locked away like under the Batcave. And Batman seems like scared, poopless that he has something hidden away at the Fortress of Solitude, and it was like one of the towers. I think the Anti-Monitor was using back in Crisis on Infinite Earth. So yeah, they're really playing up that multiverse stuff. And I mean, I'm assuming the Watchmen are, I don't know if they're from another universe, or if they're, I don't know if we're coming to another Crisis event, or they're just bringing in, they have mentioned dark multiverse. So I'm assuming we're getting like, I guess you get evil Batman. I don't know if you get good.
It's a dark universe to start with.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, just is it like darker universe, or
it's the Nolan verse. That's how dark it is.
Because they originally mentioned it at like the end of like Justice League number 50, written, and Jeff Johns wrote that. So I don't know. He's like one of the big brains over there. So. I think they were trying to explain why sometimes the Joker's like a homicidal maniac, other times he's just like the wacky jester, and well, to that extent, an interesting thing, they actually touched upon this in Harley Quinn I want to say a year ago, which is a little further, where she goes to visit all the different Jokers, and of course she meets Cesar Romero, and she meets Jack Nicholson, and she meets. Who's that other guy? The guy that everyone likes, Heath Ledger, and then but goes to all and goes meets Mark Hamill Joker, meets all the different Jokers throughout all the different multiverses to try and find which one will be the pudding she could love. And of course, none of them are good enough, because she's now Harley Quinn, her own woman. Yay, Harley Quinn! Who knows, man? Those fourth wall characters. I do think that they,
a lot more fourth wall characters lately. And I will never forget Son of Ambushbug, where Joni DC says to Ambushbug, "You are the most powerful character in the DC universe," or something to that extent, because he's the one person who, because he understands his own fictionality, cannot be destroyed by fictional things. And so when the Interferer, who is like a Beyonder Pash, he's actually a Shazam Beyonder Pashties concept. Whenever he interferes with the DC universe to make it cooler, Ambushbug can always just sort of like walk out of it. He's like, nope, not doing it. Because he knows it's all fictional. And, I do see in both Marvel and DC this idea of highlighting fourth wall characters, whether it's Deadpool or Harley Quinn, or for my money, Gwenpool, who is sort of like the illegitimate love child of Deadpool and Harley Quinn.
Get that theory walking around the internet.
Yeah, walking around. Cross-dimensional. They met one night of passion, as they do, and you get Gwenpool. Anyway, it's an interesting thing. But again, to multi-universal things.
Maybe to play into what you. Sorry, I was going to say maybe to play into what you just said and the whole Joker thing. Remember during the last Secret Wars where Marvel was like taught, all the Marvel characters were saying like time is broken and stuff. What if in DC the multiverse is broken, and that's your three Joker theory? I mean, what if like three different versions of the Joker from the multiverse just like come in and out of that of this main DC universe? Could be more than three Jokers.
Well, you know what? And that's actually my biggest thing. That is my thing about not being in the multiversal, because if it is truly multiversal, it should be more than three.
Yeah.
So what you have to look is who are the three Jokers prime, and to that extent, here is my come off the top of my sleeve. Here are your three Jokers, and here is why Batman might be really disturbed by people finding out that he's got about the Jokers. The three Jokers are DC Universe Prime Joker, Martha Kent Joker, and the Comedian. And the Comedian being the third Joker, the Joker from this other universe that perhaps, and this is maybe what it is. Dr. Manhattan destroys people. Well, actually, he didn't kill the Comedian in that universe, so never mind that. But imagine if at some point, if the universes, through all their destructions and rebirths, have started to bleed. Imagine if the Comedian is on the loose. And maybe this is why Dr. Manhattan and Mr. Oz are trying to find this guy. Because, of course, and this is an interesting idea. And this is sort of the Gwenpool effect, what we'll say, that the being who is from the real universe who comes into the fictional universe gains certain abilities and powers that they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the Comedian as a nihilist comes into this universe, maybe the Comedian is the one who's causing havoc in the DC universe, not Dr. Manhattan. And it's about Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias trying to find a way to prevent Comedian from the universe or the omniverse or the multiverse. Because essentially what you could imagine here is that the Comedian, in his view of a fictional universe, if he's going to say the universe is by its nature fictional, I am fictional, you are fictional, everything is fictional, nothing is real, it all must be torn down. We can never get to reality until all fiction is destroyed. Starts mucking about in this universe because he can. Because he is, like Ambushbug, like Gwenpool, able to break that fourth wall. Like Superboy Prime smashing against the walls of reality. In the most recent Gwenpool, we had this idea of Gwenpool pushing through the fourth wall, pushing through the borders of the comic book panel and seeing herself in other panels and seeing universes upon universes poured upon her. Can't wait for the next issue. And this is this thing. If someone has that ability to unveil fictionality, then the whole of the universe, the turtles cease to go all the way down and they start to fall.
All right, I'm putting together another theory. You got my wheels turning now.
Mm-hmm.
How
that's the fun of superconnectivity.
Well, and let me get all controversial here. Here's a way DC may be trying to rip off the Marvel model.
As always.
Well, yeah. If maybe the three Jokers are like the Golden Age Joker, the Silver Age Joker, like the modern Joker.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going the whole multiversal route, maybe because Grant Morrison tried to do this with Batman's history when he was on Batman. Mm-hmm. Maybe with all this multiversal and the three Jokers, that they're all like different, from different points. Maybe DC's trying to make everything in their continuity that's happened from, like, say, Action Comics #1 until now canon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all the different multiversal versions and, it all happened, even those wacky Batman in space, all that stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because Marvel, your big theory about Marvel and sliding time and stuff, but I mean, everything basically that's happened since World War II in Marvel is part of canon. I mean, they've had to, change some facts and, Tony Stark originally was. Yeah, exactly. Well, which war did Tony Stark get injured in? Yeah. So maybe DC's making that push that maybe they're trying to make everything from Action Comics #1 until now
Yes. And it would be brilliant if they did, and that's sort of this thing that I think is something that's interesting in the post-Secret Wars universe, because everything is canon. Everything did happen. And now we have officially sliding time is a thing and is a phenomenon in this universe. And the characters can't recognize it because they're in the universe. But it's like, no, that's all real, which is a great way to approach the concept. To actually say physically sliding time is a real phenomenon in the Marvel universe was a brilliant move in the Ultimates. And yeah, I mean, that would be very interesting to say, there are these things, the Golden Age, the Silver Age, and the Modern Age. The only problem with that is that there have been like 4 other ages in the Modern Age, because the Golden Age is like the 40s into the 50s, and the Silver Age is the 60s into the 70s, and then the Modern Age is everything since the 80s, which at this point is almost 40 years.
Well, I mean, I'm just being general, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of that Golden Age stuff that happened in the 30s and 40s, they eventually said that was like Earth 2. And then you had like the Silver Age stuff that happened until Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then like everything after like 86, 87 till now has been, well, at least until Flashpoint. So that's what I'm thinking. That's I think the big thing people say is the strength Marvel has over DC. I mean, even though sometimes they have to play with some of the facts, everything in Marvel Comics has happened. It's in canon. It always happened. With DC, it was like 1985, they did Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it's like, especially like Superman, Wonder Woman, they rebooted all them. And it's like, oh yeah, forget everything you knew before 1985. We're starting fresh. And I think, that's the thing with people complain about DC. They're like, oh, why do I got to read? They're just going to reboot continuity, in the next 10 to 15 years anyway. I think that's the big reason they didn't want to, call or admit failure on New 52 is they were just like, yeah, no, this isn't a reboot, another reboot, we're kind of altering some stuff for Rebirth, but we're not getting rid of everything. So I think they're trying to do the Marvel model once again and just be like, it all matters.
Yes, well, it should all matter because that's how you sell books. Because then you have to buy more books. It's an interesting idea, man. I mean, I do wonder if they are going to say, "Oh, yes, it all happens and it all matters," and the Golden Age is part of it, the Silver Age is part of it, and the Modern Age, all 40 years of the Modern Age are part of it. It makes me wonder if maybe there is a effort afoot to declare that. So as an example, you have your Earth 1 and your Earth 2, and one of it was set in this period and one of it is set in that period. And you don't really have the two merging. And if you sort of create this idea, much like what Marvel has done out over in the Ultimates with sliding time, this idea of events get pulled forward. Like I've said, there is this idea of as much as you can have an alternate future, you can have an alternate past. And, speaking and along those lines, when you look at this was this interesting thing about when John Byrne did Cowboys and Idioms, and he has Nathaniel Richards use his time platform. And he doesn't go to the past or the future, he goes to this alternate universe instead. That always pushes you to the side, and this time it pushes you to a completely different universe. It pushes you into the what if Leonardo da Vinci had created, what if the Dark Ages never happened universe.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the thing that they don't do that now in Marvel, but like back in the day, I think they call it the Mark Gruenwald rule, was like if anyone or any entity tried to go into the past to change history, they just created an alternate universe.
Yes. Yeah. Although interestingly, they actually had a whole thing in Squirrel Girl recently about, it was an interesting thing about like the Doom compensator, that is how you can go back in time without destroying yourself. And that's sort of why you go back and do an alternate universe. It's weird, but yes. I mean, honestly, I always give Marvel. This is what I say about Marvel and science. Even when they don't have a science advisor, they actually have people who care about what the science is behind. Like, does this make logical sense? They don't want a paradox at Marvel. They want it to make sense. DC doesn't care. DC will do a paradox. That's fine. Anyway, enough bashing on DC. Any final thoughts on Three Jokers?
No, I guess we gotta wait and see.
Yeah, I do think that if they're going to do alternate universes, you are going to see Martha Kent in there, because I think in part of the Batman metal universe things where what if every superhero was Batman? They've had Thomas Kent appear in that, right?
Wayne.
Oh, Thomas Wayne. Yes, Thomas Wayne. Sorry, Thomas Wayne appear in that. Yeah.
Yeah, in that Flashpoint universe, he was Batman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Martha Kent was Joker.
Yeah. Well, that's the big
Martha
thing.
Wayne. Why am I keep on saying confusing my Kent and my Waynes?
But no, that was
too much apple juice.
This last crossover not too long ago between Batman and Flash is they ended up in the Flashpoint universe. Supposedly, at the end of Flashpoint, that universe was supposed to cease to exist. And that's when the New 52 started. But yeah, Barry Allen and Bruce Wayne ended up back in the Flashpoint universe, and Thomas Wayne was like, "Yeah, we're still here. We didn't cease to exist."
Well, of course not. Universes don't just cease to exist.
Well, supposedly Barry Allen was supposed to go back and correct his mistake, and that was supposed to, Yeah,
and that just creates an alternate timeline.
Yeah,
that's why the universes are infinite. They're not 52 universes, kids. That makes no sense.
That's what prompted the Batman proposal, because Thomas Wayne told Bruce, he's like, go home, be happy, don't be Batman for us. Go make a life for yourself. So now Bruce Wayne's trying to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah. Or just, fund, Wayne Security Solutions and do private security forces and, eventually fall to fascism. Yeah, what are you going to do? So let's move on from there. Let's talk about. So we've been bashing on DC, or a little bit. Actually, I'm really fascinated by this concept that DC is working on right now. So do want to see where it goes. But let's talk about the horror that is the Inhumans trailer. Have you seen this, Phil? Our new official first trailer of the Inhumans.
No, I haven't seen the whole thing. I saw the teasers they were putting up, but yeah, I didn't get to see the trailer yet today.
Not a full trailer. So on the positives, Gorgon does have hooves.
Cool.
They're not good looking hooves, but they basically look like a guy wearing a hoof costume. He kind of looks like Torgo. You ever see Manos Hands of Fate? Okay. There's a character named of Torgo who is actually supposed to be a centaur, but they don't pants with big thigh implant. It's silly. It's ridiculous, which is why it is a classic of American cinema. And sort of they made Gorgon look a little bit like Torgo. He does do a stomp, and there's a shockwave stomp, which is cool. We get to see Black Bolt, say oof and like destroy a cop car. We get to see Karnak go wah wah wah. I'm Asian and no karate, because that's his superpower.
But still no movement on Medusa's hair.
No, none at all. None at all. It's a little fuller now. It's not as stick straight as it was. So apparently someone heard tease the wig out a bit. But you have her like chained up with her hands chained up in one scene as like Maximus is like, I'm an evil Maximus at you. And it's like, no one tied up her hair. Her hair is supposed to like pick you up and throw you across the room, but not so much. And actually, here's my new fan theory to actually make the Inhumans not suck 100%. On the moon, the Inhumans' powers, the humans don't have their powers. I know it's stupid. Humans don't have their powers on the moon. And there is this scene where we have this box brought in, and the theory is that in the box are pure Terrigen crystals. Because they live on the moon, they live in this space on the moon, but they haven't experienced Terrigenesis yet. This is my fan theory. Nothing in the thing tells us that, because we do see Lockjaw, and Lockjaw has powers. We do see
that would explain why that could be an explanation why they didn't show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because they didn't go through Terrigenesis yet.
Yeah. Now there's another option, because there was this one idea that Inhumans don't all go through Terrigenesis, that only the royal family goes through Terrigenesis. That was an idea at one point, because the only Inhumans we ever saw with powers were members of the royal family. I think that has since been written out, but that was at one brief period the case. This was the idea that Lockjaw had to be a member of the royal family, because only members of the royal family had powers. And to that extent, when we look at the Inhumans that we see, when we see the general population of Inhumans, we don't see superpowered beings. We don't see a lot of variation. We see basically peasantry looking folks going rabble, rabble, rouse, rouse. And if you have this idea that the Inhumans maybe don't have their powers yet, maybe that's going to be a plot point. Maybe. These are like, if we want to say there is some logical reason to the storyline, this might be a way they could save it. But yeah, it still looks very bad. I mean, Gorgon looks good. Gorgon doesn't look good, but Gorgon looks better. Gorgon has hooves at least, and he has powers. Karnak actually still looks pretty good. Made Gorgon Asian and Karnak black just to play with stereotypes, but whatever. Actually, I would have made Black Bolt Asian, made Karnak black, and made Gorgon be the white guy. That would have been my take on it. But as you go through the central casting for your diversity, for your diversity play, Triton is apparently in it and looks bad. I mean, he looks like oh, look, okay, you look like Martian Manhunter from Supergirl, which, granted, it's fine. That's the thing. If you want a green guy, there's a green guy, and Triton's a green guy. I mean, I would feel better if Triton had more scales, but you take it as it comes. Honestly, he looks a little like a green Yondu, basically a guy with his face painted. But it's okay.
Do you think, I saw this theory online, and it's probably true, do you think maybe the whole problem with the Inhumans TV show is that it is a TV show, that these characters are too big, that they should have had their own movie like originally planned, and a TV show is kind of like...
Well, you know what? Here's what I'll say. I don't think... Because here's the thing. I like Supergirl.
Yeah.
I like Martian Manhunter as a guy in green face paint. Heck, I like the Incredible Hulk as Lou Ferrigno as a guy in green face paint. I think the problem with it is the disappointment. And here's the thing. I think it is. Here's what I'm going to tell you. cheap special effects don't make you dislike a show.
Mhm.
But looking at what we see and feeling like the story isn't there, and not for nothing, they want to do superheroes Game of Thrones, and that's fine. But if their superheroes Game of Thrones is just, we are a royal family and we have superpowers, it's not that exciting. Because we've seen lots of royal family intrigues, and not for nothing, we saw Dallas 30 years ago. We've seen the idea of a powerful family with internecine conflicts. We've seen the good brother and the bad brother. We've seen all of this before.
And I mean, you made the comparison to Game of Thrones. Is this supposed to be a watered down version? These characters are supposed to be big. Their powers are supposed to be big. Their conflict is supposed to be big. Can you get that on 8 episodes on ABC? Should they have? If they want to do TV, should they have at least gone to Netflix?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. See, I think that your special effects budget is the same.
Well, not just special effects, but
honestly, here's what I'm going to say.
You could do more on Netflix than ABC.
Here's what I'm going to say. It wouldn't have been hard. So, remember Spider-Man 2, the Doc Ock, and he had the arms and the way he interacted with his arms. Okay, that's what Medusa should be. Her hair should be a character. And yes, I get. Here's what I'm going to say: having her hair be a character, no matter how cheap it looked, it would have made the story, because the story is that the hair is a character, not how the hair looks. So you can do it with, and I said this, the fake 1960 Fantastic Four TV series that never was looks better than this modern day Inhumans, because it seemed like an understood story. And again, my biggest complaint right now is that there are 2 very powerful female characters that are not shown to have powers in our trailers. Most visually intense characters, and really they are, because Medusa's hair is visually intense. Crystal, with the manipulation of earth and fire and water and air, she is. These are actually like really the powerhouses of the Inhumans, and they're both just shown being pushed away so the men can have an adventure.
Well, do you think that's because their powers are so visual and so maybe CGI heavy or effects heavy? Because Gorgon and Karnak is basically like, oh, I'm strong, I can hit stuff, and Black Bolt's going to keep his mouth shut most of the time, and Triton's going to be like, oh, let me jump in the water.
Yes, but the thing is that, and while that's true, yes, that is the cost, but you knew the job, as the chicken says, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. And
did they give they blow all the budget on the dog?
Nah, and honestly, the dog doesn't look any better than the dog looked in the 1960s stills. He still looks like just a big old dog with a thing on his head. Mm-hmm. And then they do a I forget, not a spaghetti wipe, but they do a stretch wipe to do his teleport. Which is like, okay, fine. That's a way to show a teleport. Sure. It's not, like I said, it's not particularly interesting. Here's what I'm going to say. The original story of the Inhumans is Medusa is our central character. Mm-hmm. She is the one who is sent out from Adelan. She is the one who interacts with the real world. Having it be Black Bolt, Medusa sort of chained up and locked away with Crystal, you basically take, the 2 very powerful female characters and totally take it. Basically what I'm saying is, in the age of Wonder Woman, this is a bad story choice.
Well, yeah. It is a bad story choice, but you think, again, it's because their powers are so big and they're like saving those effects till the end of the season or whatever, episode 7 or 8, you're going to be like, oh, there's the hair finally. Because, that's kind of what they did with Firestorm on Legends of Tomorrow, especially that first season.
The difference is we're not coming into Legends of Tomorrow with bated breath about Firestorm. We want to see in our trailer, to get us interested, Medusa walking down the staircase with her hair moving of its own accord.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want. We want her hair to be a character. And
or are they banking on that to bring you into the show? Be like, okay, I know the hair's coming, so I'm going to watch episode 1. Okay, it wasn't there. Let me watch episode 2. Maybe it'll be there.
I don't know. Are we really that desperate? Are we really? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Some of the footage I've seen, maybe.
In 1982, yes. In 1982, when our best thing was a Lou Ferrigno Hulk, maybe a Red Brown Captain America if you really like to stretch it, coming off of of the old Spider-Man with no Uncle Ben, yeah. We would have waited. We would have okay. The hair's gonna do just what? They're saving it for the end. We don't have to wait for the hair.
Maybe they don't have faith in their story.
Honestly, I don't think they have faith in the characters. Mm-hmm. Or to be blunt, I think they put the faith in the wrong thing.
Something happened behind the scenes because they had it was supposed to be a movie, and then all of a sudden, it's a TV show.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think that the fact that it's a TV show is as much of a problem as some people might. I think the problem is their decision to make the TV show not interesting. I think they decided to make it about the male characters and not the female characters. They decided to make it Black Bolt's journey, and Black Bolt isn't a good character.
Not on his own, no. Medusa should be with him, like you said.
Exactly. It's Medusa and Black Bolt. Black Bolt by himself, he's a tank, but he's not interesting. And if you add, Lockjaw is interesting. Honestly, I think you could have made the story about Lockjaw, and that might have gotten people. Oh wow, that's what they're going to do with Lockjaw, because people will say Lockjaw is probably one of the most interesting of the Inhumans.
Yeah, but I mean, Black Bolt and Lockjaw together. I'm like, you got two characters that don't speak. It's like,
yes, I know it's ridiculous. It's not a good thing to build your story around. Heck, you build your story around Maximus the Mad, and maybe you get something because then at least you have a character who speaks, and you make it all about Maximus in his castle plotting. But what we're seeing is not anything to make us want to watch the show. Nothing about this is making me say, honestly, and I'm going to say this, I feel about the Inhumans the way I feel about the X-Men. I'd like to see an X-Men movie, but I know that the X-Men movies aren't necessarily something I have to see. There's certainly something I can wait till cable for. And once I see them, I'm like, oh, okay. That was an X-Men movie. It's like, it's not that it's necessarily bad. It's just that it's not that it's necessarily good either.
I mean, is it a sign that they don't have faith that they're burying it on Friday night at 9:00 or 10 o'clock?
I don't know if it's really a lack of faith so much as just it's I think that's where it is. And that's what they're doing with it. And there's not really anything. I don't think anything should be read into it beyond what it is. Like I said, I mean, I'd like it if there was some grander conspiracy, because then at least you could say, oh, well, it's a grand conspiracy. But in truth, it's just, people making do with what they got. Okay. Anything else you want to talk about tonight, Phil?
I don't think, because Saturday morning we're going to be talking the new comics of the week. So,
yay, comics! Yeah. I will say that. That is one thing I wanted to say. Is like, I think you're right. I think there's only 2 issues of Occupy Avengers left.
Yeah, there was this week, and number 8 was this week, and then the only solicit I could find was for next issue, number 9.
And you see, it says to be concluded.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally wrote my letter to.
Yeah. It says The Last Stand, yeah.
Yeah, and I wrote my letter to David Walker. I finally got around to it. I mean, I didn't get everything in there, but I didn't mention Mr. Fantastic. My love of Conan trapped in the 21st century, or the 20th century. And, that I hope that, yes, it ends, but it's going to lead into the Tilda Johnson comic, the Deadly Nightshade Hawk. And that'll be worth it to me, because that would be an interesting thing.
That would be good if we're gonna maybe even if they kept the team and they just like redid it because they're taking Avengers off the title.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, you just cut out Hawkeye and it's just Tilda, Red Wolf, Mr. Fantastic, and we will call Wheels Mr. Fantastic. I am committed to this. And then, Silas and Frank. Imagine that it seemed like one of the panels, one of them wasn't in a wheelchair anymore. So, but I let it go. I didn't want to do a nitpick on the art. But, I forget which one was actually in the wheelchair, if it was Silas or Frank of the Fireheart brothers, but anyway, it is what it is. And, I hope, I hear so much love in the critical community about David Walker as a writer. And certainly I love the guy. So I'm hoping that if Occupy Avengers runs its course as it runs up against Secret Empire, I'm hoping that it comes out on the other side as something new.
Yeah, maybe like you said, maybe it's just taking a hiatus like Thunderbolts, because remember Jim Zub was telling us that I guess Thunderbolts may be back after Secret Empire.
Yeah, so hopefully, and like I said, it doesn't have to be called Occupy Avengers. It can be, like I said, if it's called the Deadly Nightshade Hawk, I'm totally there. Nightshade and her friends, Nightshade and her amazing friends. That would be a great one.
Or what if it's just her?
That's fine, although I want to see Red Wolf keep on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always torn with Red Wolf because part of me wants him to be able to get home, like the kids in the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. But at the same time, I think that this idea of this, natural super soldier in Red Wolf, is pretty awesome and a great thing to have in the story. So I like him there. And I like the fact that he kind of, like I said, for me, he kind of fills in that Conan vibe,
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I would love to see a Tilda Johnson solo book as Nighthawk. Her seeking redemption as a former supervillain. Kind of like Thunderbolts, but like a solo book, and like her becoming almost like the Marvel Universe's Batwoman.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to see that. Although I have to say, man, did actual Nighthawk die in another book? Like, was that in a real book, or was it just in an off-panel situation here?
Well, that one page from Occupy Avengers, they showed like an African-American gentleman getting gunned down. I was like, is that supposed to be him?
I figured that was supposed to be him. I took that as that. I was wondering if that was actually a scene from another book where you actually got how he died. But just in that, it was powerful and really fascinating. Yes, you have the fact that, and I think this is sort of their argument on Hydra, is that they're fascists, not Nazis, because you will see that you see a Hydra that looks like America. A lot of white people, but you got in there also all the other groups of people in this country, because fascism knows no color.
Oh, the propaganda machines in full force. You said you didn't finish Amazing Spider-Man?
Yeah, I didn't finish that or Infamous Iron Man yet.
Oh well. Otto shows Peter where the Black Dome the location it originates from.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more Hydra propaganda. They're making it look like it came from Parker Industries.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure Hydra Cap probably stepped up and like, oh, we'll protect you from that dangerous Parker Industries. Look what they did to New York.
Oh, that's gonna come back to bite Cap in the butt, though. You know why? Because that's Otto's baby.
Mm-hmm.
Otto is the founder of Parker Industries.
Oh yeah, he spent all this issue telling Peter that everything you created, all this whole business, it was my creation. You just got handed it.
Yeah, well, it's true, man. Otto, and this is why I hope these guys actually wind up becoming friends at the end of this arc.
Mm-hmm.
Octopus is truly the superior octopus. He's not going to be a villain, just like Tilda Johnson says in Occupy Avengers, where she's saying, I used to be a villain, and I realized, oh man, we were stupid when we were villains. Now that I'm on the hero's head, like, oh yeah, that was so stupid what we did, and they're still being stupid. And I realized why we're stupid, and I realized why we always lose. What's amazing is that Cap, and this is what I said last issue when we were discussing last week about Cap going full on supervillain in his last Steve Rogers book, is that the whole episode is just folks totally pinning him, as they say, PWN, owning him, whether it's Sabra or Black Panther or anyone else. It's like he's sitting there ranting and raving and basically being shown the fool for his rants and raves. Okay. This has been a nice long super connectivity this week, Phil.
No, we're good.
Okay. Then, folks, Phil, where can folks find you to discuss with you your brilliance and your ideas and your fantastic, better informed fan theories than mine ever could be, because you actually read Batman books? How can they write to you or talk to you?
If you want to discuss the theory of 3 Charlie Essers, you can always email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. Also, if you're a creator and want to do an interview, on Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. And remember to follow Superconnectivity. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Superconnectivity Podcast. Twitter is at SuperConnectPod. We're on Instagram, Superconnectivity. And, for any of our shows, if you want to leave a voicemail, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES.
Yep, because we are on the Capes and Lunatics Network. Because Phil's the Cape, Lois the Lunatic, and I'm the Ant. And Tyler is the space in between.
That's deep.
Yeah, well, the space in between. That is when you do you have the universe in creation, the universe existence, the universe in finality, and then that moment when there is but nothing, and then the cycle begins again. Okay.
That's why he's the co-host of the Ironcast, people.
Yes, what? I watch a lot of TV, and all knowledge in the universe is on TV. You just got to watch enough of it. And, of course, if you'd like to write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And if you want to tweet me like the kids do these days, go tweet at me. Hip young president does. You can tweet me at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's right there in the middle for quality. Folks, this has been another night of super connectivity, of theories and ideas and possibilities that may never come to be or may already have. Thank you for connecting with us. Please connect with us again. Good night.